Hello, my viewer. Once again, welcome to our channel. I'm super excited that you have stayed on board, and from the first episode, we are moving into this second episode, and so far so good. I remember, in my first episode, as I continued on with my story, I shared with us that I had moved now to the countryside schools, and while here, I now start doing other drugs because heroin, remember, is not locally available. So I opt for something that would keep me high and maintain me high. And so my choice of drug here is marijuana, what others would call weed or pan, and with the cigarettes. And so I start as an amateur, and I grow and I become addicted, and of course in the process I introduce my friends, those that I found in the school, and some were very new and they didn't know about weed or cigarette. They had never tested, so I influenced them now negatively, and I introduced them to this. So they also, like, they are my gang now, and we do this together. So we would sneak out of school, and finally, even before things got worse, I remember I felt at some point like this was a punishment for me, like, moving me from this urban setup and taking me down to the countryside. To me, this was more of a punishment, and nothing good about it. So I developed this rebellion towards my dad, because I just thought inside me, I just thought within me, like, why couldn't you try another, way of helping me out, even if it was about drugs? But I think as a parent also, I today have come to learn that this was the best of options for him. So I really do not blame him for having taken that decision. Probably he thought, by taking the advice from my former principal in Mombasa, that he takes me to the countryside, and they probably, out of innocence, they thought maybe it was because he was addicted to heroin. Now the chances are less or slim for him to engage in other drugs. So this is information, and I really hope that this information will help most of us, that when you withdraw one choice of drug from this addict, the next thing is they're looking for an option. If they are not willing to quit this particular drug, willing to quit this behavior, then the next thing they're doing is looking for an option. That is a fact that my former principal and my parents didn't have. So, and so I pray that this is going to be a blessing, a channel for you, because you are learning, you are getting a few things from this. And so, out of rebellion now, I would do drugs just to prove wrong my parents. So unfortunate this was. And so I remember I became more rebellious, and I did things the opposite way, so that I would just have a clash with my dad at all times. So it was intentional, and it was so purposeful that I just do drugs. And while I do these drugs, my viewer, let me share with you that particularly when one is addicted to substance abuse, then they carry along there's a way this behavior carries along other behaviors along the way, like one being from being this clean boy, you become unkempt, and you don't mind more about your hygiene or your cleanliness. You go for days without taking a shower. You really wouldn't mind about your hair, how you look like. So you move from that place of being so responsible and caring to a place of being irresponsible. These are some of the things that happened to me. And so yes, you move from this place of being a responsible boy or a responsible student and very caring to yourself, to your body, hygienically, to the place of being unbothered. You really don't care about how you look like, your hair being unkempt, what you wear, you don't really mind, So what happened is that in the process, Now I'm a rebellious child. I do not do drugs because of the feeling that comes with it, but I'm doing drugs out of rebellion now. I just want to prove my parents wrong, and particularly my daddy. My viewer, I will tell you that I developed a hatred towards my dad. You know, such a hatred that I even wished death for him. You know, I remember at some point I lied to my teacher. I lied to my principal in school that I had received news of daddy's death, and so I needed to go home. I'm killing my parent. I'm killing my dad here, and my intention is simply to have ways on how I can get some money. So I sit and plan and come up with a way of how do they get money, and how I get money is by lying to my principal, to the teachers, to the entire school that I have lost my dad, and so I need to go home. Of course, I'm given permission, but before I leave school, in a way, we used to do that. I do not know in the schools today, but it was a culture that when you lose a kid or a parent, your sibling maybe, then your classmates, the entire school, plus the staff, the teaching staff and the non-teaching staff would come together and collect, do some little fundraiser for you. And so I was a beneficiary to this hack. So yeah, I got myself some money. Of course, I'm given time to go home and prepare for the funeral, and so it's like you're given like 2 weeks. Now, unfortunately, the unfortunate happened that nobody from my school attended this burial. That is how I got free with this. Like, nobody could tell whether I truly had lost my dad or not, because none of them attended the function, the ceremony, the funeral ceremony, and therefore I got with it. I got away with it. So yes, I have gotten some money, and so I resort to my hideout in the nearby shopping center, and I'm celebrating. I have like close to 15,000 Kenya shillings then. I mean, that was in the late 90s. That was too much for me to sustain my behavior for another period of like 2 or 3 weeks before I hack another lie, or before I find ways on how I can get money. Now, I'll tell you, one of the characteristics, one of the things that drug addicts do is, if they're not employed, if they don't have any source of income, one of the things that they major in doing is how to obtain money, how to get money to sustain their habit, to sustain their behavior. So they'll do anything. Now me, I went to the extent of killing my dad, and that is how serious it can get with our relatives who are doing drugs. And so yes, I got away with it, but of course this money was to be used, and before you think of hacking another plot to get more money. Of course, I also got money from my relatives, my aunties, my elder sister then, who was already married, and she lived by herself, and she used to run her businesses. So there was a way I would get money from these people without them knowing that I already have enough pocket money from dad, So these were my ways on how I could sustain my habit. Remember, I'm in school, I do not work, I have no income from any business. So I depend on how I can I look on how I can get money from other sources. Of course, by way of lying, So I spoil other children. I'm very sorry that I did this to many others. I hope if they'll be watching, they'll truly forgive me, because I introduced them to a vice that was not the best thing. So this went on, and I remember one of the bad things. There are many bad things we do that are criminal in nature. One of the things that I remember ever tried to do was I organized for not a strike per se, but I was the lead, like to planning on how we could burn down the school. The reason why I wanted to burn down the school with my friends My viewer, I'll remind you from my former school, my first high school in Mombasa. There's this culture shock that comes in, like from an urban setup to a rural setup. There's a lot of things that have happened. There's a big shift from the comfort that came with the whole, the school way back in Mombasa, the kind of foods we eat, and compared to what we were given in school down in the countryside. Trust me, that was so big a culture shock to me. I'll give you an example. I do not know how to call this particular small fish in English, but we call it omena, and I never had omena for a meal in school back in Mombasa, but down at the countryside, this was like the main meal every single day. Like, we could get 3 pieces of omena in a dish and full of, and the soup is not just soup that is done well, but it's just some water that is being boiled. So these are some of the things that now make me become rebellious, because I'm like, this is real punishment. You're killing me, How dare you take me to this school? How dare you bring me all to this place to just make me suffer? So I'm acting out of rebellion. And no one is listening, no one is seeing this. The school, the administration is very innocent. That is their system, that is how they do things. My parents are way back in Mombasa, they do not know that this is what is happening. And of course, even if they knew, they would not give an ear to this, because you are the reason for us to move you down there. So I act, this is my way of speaking out. No one is keen to listen to my actions. Unfortunately, did we even have a counseling department? No, we never had. So the only way of them helping you out is to suspend you. So I remember I had to plan on how we could, out of bitterness and out of anger, how can we just ban the school? And I come up with this plan. Though in real sense, I really did not want to ban, but I was just giving as a threat. I was putting it out as a threat. I remember I wrote down a letter to the principal of our intentions, and particularly my intentions. I do not sign out that it's me. It's just an open letter. And I remember I drafted this letter very late in the night, in the middle of the night, around 1, 2 in the night, and I walked to the principal's office and I slipped it down, below the door, and for him to come and get it in the morning. And of course, we had an assembly in the morning, and so that was the agenda of the assembly. Like, there are people who want to burn the school, but believe you me, before you burn it down, we'll be on you. So. They were so good at investigating. They narrowed down the investigations to my clique, my gang, my group. We were around 7 guys, and so of course they were each cornered. And before I was cornered, we already they were already threatened, and of course 2 of them had to mention my name out and say that it's Benjamin who had planned for this. So, guess what? My expulsion. So before I banned the school, I'm banned out, I'm expelled. I didn't have any reason to tell my parents why I've been expelled. I didn't even tell them that I've been expelled. Remember, I've not done my, end term exams, and I'm being expelled. So even if I go to another school, to be an issue again, because you don't have your former, your previous end term reports. And so I just tell my parents, I do not want that school anymore. I can't go back there. I give the reasons of omena. I give the reasons of being woken up so early in the morning for dawn. By school back in Mombasa, we never had dawn, waking up at 4 for dawn classes. All I remember is we used to wake up at 6 and just prepare and go to class. But here, you're having a dawn prep in the morning at 4. You have to be up by, maybe 3:30, or, and you're supposed to be in class by 4. So these are the reasons, like me, I do not want that school because of ABCD, and to me, these are, excuses that should be considered. And so my dad is like, now this is too much from you. Remember, I have your siblings, I have other people I'm taking to school. It's not only you. So if you want to play around, there's a point it will reach and get tired. And therefore, I don't think I'm interested in looking for another school. You have to look for this school for yourself. And I remember, by this time we have closed, schools are closed, and so I do not tell him that I didn't even sit for my end-term exams. I don't have a report. And of course, that is the first question, where is the report? I'm like, they had to work it out, and they'll be sending them in a week's time. I get away with that. And so they travel back to Mombasa. I'm back home, and I remember I engaged with my daddy's cousin, my auntie, and who really empathized with me, and she was like, I can help you get to school. My late auntie Karen, was so instrumental at this time, and so she went ahead and looked for a school for me, and I did an interview, and lucky Benji here has passed his interview, and so I'm moving into a new school. So she was very glad to share with my dad that, Benji has passed his interview, and so we've gotten him a new school, so all we need is money for the school fees and the new uniform and a few things that the school need. So now I'm joining my third high school, and the one thing that was so coincidental is that every other person who did interviews with to join the school has been expelled from their previous schools. So we're here, and of course we do not know each other. We just sat for the exams, for the interview, and we're joining, and again, coincidentally, we have got into one class, one stream. So we are like, the next day is like, I saw you. You also sat for the interview. I mean, and yes, I saw you. So we become friends out of this coincidence, and so when we get to know each other well, and the reasons why we were expelled from our previous schools, it's because there are many similarities out of indiscipline cases, out of issues to do with drugs, and so I realized, we can become a gang. We are good to go. And so at this point, it's like none of us was willing to quit on our behaviors, on our drug issues, and so we just want to continue on with life like we were in our previous schools. So apparently I also become the leader here, the group leader. And so I remember we were all new in this area, and this is a school in the countryside, remember, specifically Migori County. And so all of them also come from urban setups, some Nakuru, some Nairobi. I was the only one. We were two from Mombasa. And so apparently it's only me who has my home close within the same county. So, and remember, my parents are not, they're still in Mombasa, they work in Mombasa. So at home, my daddy's home, we only have a groundsman. So I find ways on how, of course, now to get out of school suspensions. And whenever we had any outings, I would sneak out of school, and the next thing is you get a suspension and you come back to school. So as I get my suspension, my rest of the gang members, we were around 8 gang members, the rest of the guys would now find ways on how they can also get out of school. So we'd all converge at my home, my daddy's home, and we'd have a good time there for 2 weeks suspension. And of course, when you're going back to school, you have to get a guardian, you got to have a parent go back to school with you. So the system in school was willing to have a guardian who would represent your parent. And so we were very smart. We would get someone, in the streets and just ask them, we are hiring you to play the role of a parent, and therefore take us to school, get yourself some nice, some nice clothing, something decent, and take us to school. And as you take me to school, pose and act as a parent, who would be furious about their children being suspended because of bad behavior. So come psychologically set to even punish me before the discipline master or the principal, so that they see how serious it is for you as a guardian. But we are hiring you, do this. We are, you're, because I did not want my dad to know that I was suspended. So by this time, my parents do not know that I'm going through suspensions in schools, because I have found a way out to how get someone take me to school, and so I got along with this. I mean, it was a trend of at 300 shillings you hire this person and they do everything else for you. Remember, I have found ways on how also to get money. Once I'm suspended from school, I go to the local clubs, the bars around, and we used to have pool tables, and so I was good at playing pool. So we'd get money out of playing pool, and I would pocket like 1,000 bob every single day playing pool. So my being suspended came along with me making money also, and so I had enough money. Going back to school, I had enough, to sustain my behavior, and even to pay this person who would take me back to school as my guardian. And so it was enjoyable. To me, it was like I was on holiday, Remember, my parents do not know that I'm suspended. They do not know what is happening down here. Unfortunately, and this is so unfortunate, that the school would not communicate to my parents back. I really pity our schools. I'm praying that there's something happening today, that what happened then in our schools is not happening today. But if that is the case, then I really pity with our schools, because parents should be kept abreast. They should be updated on what is happening to their students. Now that never happened with me. So my parents are back in Mombasa. They've totally green. They do not know what is happening. My viewer, because of time, I want to ask you to stay on board. Please join me in our third episode. May God bless you. Thank you.